So communities in Dominica today are actively experiencing the impacts of severe weather flooding right now. I'm not sure how many of you are aware. And unfortunately, that meant that the Chief Sanford of the Kalamazoo people were unable to make it to this presentation today. And of course, that reminds us that for the Caribbean, vulnerability, when we hear the statistics and all of that, is that it's not abstract, right? It's not an abstract concept. It's really a lived reality that impacts us, over and over and over and over again. So one of the things that really stood out to me is the work that Compete is doing in terms of how we think financial tools quickly. And I think the work that Compete is doing in that space is really, really critical. I also think the work that Compete has done with Antigua and Barbuda around the Sustainable Resilience Facility. Again, this is another important initiative because it demonstrates how resilience financing can really because resilience financing needs to become more mainstream. It's not just about how, as I said, it's just not an event, but it's about how our economies just operate and function, right? And especially for MSMEs, we all have, coastal sectors, tourism-dependent economies, and vulnerable communities, and those are the ones most hardest hit when these events take place. So for me, I think that, again, this is one of the area of business that, like I said, it's quite sobering, but very, very important for us as a vulnerable region.
Notwithstanding the drivers of most of our economies in the Caribbean, large facilities, large plants, community-based tourism is fundamental. It reminds me, when you sit down thinking about it, it reminds me of my roots and where you come from. The fact that when I was growing up, I could not get into a big hotel. The fact that it was the community, it was the location where there was another guest house that we went to, and you were in that community, you ran around with the kids in that community, and you basically learned something about that space, that community. What you ate, how you interacted with nature, all of those things, there's always a risk that we lose those things as we develop. And for me, Compete's engagement in that space resonates. Jamaica, Belize, Guyana, short list, but I'm hoping that we can replicate those lists throughout the region. There's a need for us to focus on those areas, in those communities, to touch the people who we oftentimes forget when we sit in a big facility. Their lives in those spaces, there are jobs being created in that space. And Compete is very much at the forefront of that.
Compete was able to bring them together, have a common vision, and work together to move forward. So I thought that was a very illustrative way of showing how you can have results. And even more interesting is I see that in this iteration of Compete, the support will continue. So again, showing us that it's not just a one-off, we supported a cluster and we've been able to achieve this result, but it's actually building on the results we've seen to see now how can we improve governance in the ocean and the fishery industry and support Grenada moving forward. So seeing that you're continuing to work in that space is also something that shows the possibility not only of scaling but having broader impact within that country.